Good evening, everyone. This is Laurel Domsteegt. I'm so happy you came back today. A couple days ago, we talked about two treatments that we can use to help prevent getting COVID or another sickness. One of them is deep breathing, bringing the air into the deprived lungs, helping it to expand and to get more healthy. The other is adding a cold part to your shower. When you're all done with your hot shower, get under the cold and let your body get refreshed that way, and it will get your blood all churning and help your immunity and oxygenation of your blood. Two helpful things I hope you've been able to implement. I also talked about how John Harvey Kellogg started the Battle Creek Sanitarium and expanded it. He was a genius at surgery, but he was also a genius at knowing the body's anatomy and what kind of treatment was good for various diseases. And some of that has been passed down to us through books and different things. And it's really helpful to get a hold of this. Traditional hydrotherapy.com is a really helpful website you can use to study up on more hydrotherapy treatments. Well, another thing that Dr. Kellogg did was he trained doctors and had a nursing school. In turn, these doctors and nurses spread out all over the world to start more sanitariums and more nursing schools. And we find that these health professionals just went everywhere. They went to different places all over this country and to foreign nations. They started sanitariums with their own training schools, Loma Linda Sanitarium, which later became Loma Linda University, which has a very fine dental school, very fine medical school at this point, Paradise Sanitarium, Glendale Sanitarium, Hinsdale, overseas, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Penang, Youngberg, even Bangkok Sanitarium and Hospital, which is where I grew up because my parents were both doctors at Bangkok Sanitarium. I can remember as a child going past the little hydro room on the main floor and seeing all the curtains that went between all the beds, just like an emergency room. I could smell the menthol coming out from the steam treatments. I could see the nurses pulling out fomentations to take to the different patients that were brought down there for treatment. Bangkok Sanitarium used to do a lot of hydrotherapy. Paul Stuyvesant took nursing from one of these nursing schools, Hinsdale Sanitarium near Chicago, using Battle Creek methods. He learned the natural remedies we have learned and many, many more. He was very good at hydrotherapy. Paul Stuyvesant was asked to go to Southern Junior College, and it was a tent city at that time. He moved to Collegedale to help build the new school, Southern Junior College, whose students were then housed in tents that looked like this. No buildings yet. It was a very limited budget. Cold storms blew through, 18 inches of snow on the ground. And here everybody was in tents, but everybody was hardy and they were very happy that the school was started. So they were very brave about it. He was also the school nurse for the men at the new college. But this was 1918, and the flu pandemic was just hitting the world. This flu pandemic in 1918 went clear around the world 3 times, different variants every time, killed estimated 50 million people. World War only killed 16 million, and COVID-19 has now caught up. Within the first 3 months, it had killed more people than any other disease recorded in history. Targeted young adults. Now, most of the time, flus target old people, but these were young people, the army, the schools, the universities, In the morning, a person could be fine. By nightfall, he could be dead. It was that deadly and that fast. But no deaths were recorded at Battle Creek Sanitarium because they used fomentations. Here is a field hospital during that time. Notice the crowding, the contagion possibilities. It was quite amazing what happened. Well, flu hit Southern. Students began coming down with the flu. Paul was given a tent and an assistant, and these two worked tirelessly giving fomentations, and we'll talk all about that in a little bit. Not one student died, despite terrible living conditions and a high mortality rate elsewhere. Then it hit Oakwood. Oakwood College in Huntsville, Alabama was hit hard by the flu epidemic, and Paul and his assistant traveled to Oakwood, gave treatments there. Again, God blessed, and there were no casualties. They worked long hours taking care of the sick. And those of you who do natural treatments know that it takes a lot of energy and it's very time consuming, but that it's very effective. Well, Paul went back to Collegedale. By now, the outbreak had returned to Collegedale, so Paul Stuyvesant and his assistant returned to Collegedale. But this time, both Paul and his assistant contracted the flu. Paul recovered, but the assistant did not. For the rest of his long life, Paul Stuyvesant regretted that he could not help his assistant after they had been able to help so many. He was 90 years plus when he died, so that was many years to think about that. This is a true story from my cousin Cheryl Stuyvesant Hosford about her grandfather. What were the fomentations that were so effective during the flu pandemic of 1918? They would have thick fomentation cloths, pads, towels, a lot, very heavy, and these were heated in hot water, wrung out, then covered with towels and blankets so it wouldn't burn somebody, and were placed hot under the back and on the chest of the patient, while the patient's feet were placed in hot water. This was alternated with cold, wet cloths rubbed with friction to the chest. This process repeated to help the patient's own body to fight the flu. Now, the fomentations would cause a lot of sweating on the chest and on the back. And this would show that the person was heating up in the areas designed. And then when you put the cold on it, it would start the circulation even better, fighting the disease in that area. They also earnestly prayed to God, to the master healer. The function of the fomentations is it increases the number and circulation of the white blood cells to help fight the infections more effectively, and it helps remove body waste through skin by sweating. It relieves pain in nerves, muscles, joints, and internal organs, relaxes the muscles. It equalizes the circulation through the body to relieve congestion of the internal organs. So you can see that fomentations were really, really helpful on the chest when the person was fighting a very bad pneumonia. And fomentations are very helpful for that. But you can also use them on other parts of the body. You can use it on your belly. You can use it on a thigh or on a leg, just depending on what the problem is and where you need help. Fomentations are really very effective to increase circulation of the white blood cells. But you cannot just blindly use it on anybody and everybody. Person that has cancer, a person that is unconscious, person who has appendicitis, and I would add probably those with diabetes that cannot feel in the extremities. These would be an important thing to keep in mind that such people cannot take such extremes in temperature, really hot to really cold. And so that's contraindicated for these persons. Question is, can it be used with COVID? If the chest is congested, if person has difficulty breathing, the oxygen level is down, treatment to the chest where the lungs are affected, all these are reasons why a fomentation would be really helpful for those with COVID. If they're doing a lot of coughing as well, maybe it's turned into a pneumonia. It's all indicated and a really good treatment to do. We have a person right here locally, a family that got COVID, and they use fomentations to treat this COVID. And I would like to have Tracy teach us what they did with their family. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, I'm Tracy and we're here to demonstrate fomentations. Just a quick overview. Fomentations is pretty much hot and cold applied to the chest. So what we want to start out with your patient in a comfortable position. This is our favorite place in the recliner. You can do it in the bed, and we had one little lady that we did it sitting up on the couch. Make sure your patient is comfortable. And then you want to put something on their chest and on their back to cover them up so that they don't, the heat's not directly on them. There are several different ways to apply the heat. We at home, we use the simple method of towels. So we have hand towels. The thicker they are, the more they hold heat. So our hand towels, we just fold them in thirds, and then I roll them up and I put it in a pot. Now this pot, you see I already have one in here, so I have a set of 2 to begin with. I put water in it at the bottom, and I'm gonna steam these towels just like you might steam broccoli. So the water, we don't want the water to touch the towels. We just want to steam them. So these 2 fit in here very nicely, and one will be for the back, and one will be for the front. And then to begin with, we start steaming them for about 10 to 15 minutes so that they're good and warm. When we put the next set in, because you'll be swapping this out 3 times, when you put the next set in, it'll only be 7 minutes because the water will be nice and hot and boiling. You want to make sure that you keep enough water in there, because you can burn your pot. And as my kids found out, and my kids did a lot of these treatments, so anyone can do this. When they're done heating up, you're going to want to take tongs because they're going to be hot. And you're going to pull them out. And then you're going to lay them on top of a dry towel. The thicker the towel, probably the better. It holds the heat in better and keeps from burning them. Now you're going to do 2 towels like this to begin with, and I've already got the second one ready. So I put the thicker one behind his back and the thinner one here, but you know what? I did forget that he needed this on his back. We also did this much of the time with a shirt on, so if you're more comfortable with your shirt, you just have to be always talking to your patient. Are you too hot? If it's too hot, put another towel or another layer under them. If you keep the shirt on, it will get wet, and we'll see why in a minute. And you're gonna need to make sure, especially sure, that you keep a dry layer between the heat and them. Because if their shirt gets wet, or if anything wet is touching them, then it enhances the heat and it makes it hotter. So while we have the heat on the chest, we're gonna put a cold cloth on their head to keep them cool and comfortable. All right? And you're gonna leave that there for 7 minutes while the next pad or set is heating up for 7 minutes. When you're done at 7 minutes, you're gonna take this off and you're gonna make sure that this water here is ice cold. Ice in it. For demonstration purposes, it is not cold today. Can you get me another towel? I'm missing another towel. We're gonna wipe off his chest with this ice cold water, okay? And then we're going to dry it because, as I said, anything wet is going to enhance the heat, all right? We're gonna take off this one and we're going to apply the new one that just came out. We're gonna make sure that he stays cool and comfortable. And we're gonna put this on his head. So we will do this. This considers the second one. And then we'll have a third one in the pot, steaming, ready to go. We'll put the third one on. And after the third one, we'll wipe them down again with the ice cold water, dry them off, and then they need to rest. Sometimes we go ahead and do it a fourth time, so that's just gonna be depending on you. And for us, in this way, this does not hold as much heat as some other methods. So I make sure I turn off the fans and the air conditioner because then it cools off. If you don't, it cools off before it gets to your patient. These are some called fomentation pads. These hold heat much better. So another way to do that is to wet these, wring them out, which I had a hard time wringing them out, but you do the best you can to wring them out, and they have to be wet. And then you roll it up and you put them in the microwave. And then you'll do the same thing that you did here, making sure that you have something to protect the patient between the patient and the heating pad. And these also get much hotter, so you need to make sure that you have something dry between them and the heating pad.
How long is the microwave?
The first time you go around, you're gonna heat them up. You'll heat 2 of them up, just like we did for that, one for the back, one for the front. And you will heat them up for, I think it was 4.5 minutes and the first time, okay? And then while those 2 are there, you're gonna heat the next one up for about 3 minutes. And as you can play with it, I found that after they had been heated up the first time, 2 minutes, about 2 minutes, maybe 2.5 minutes was sufficient for them to be hot, hot enough. This in the microwave, 2 minutes in the microwave. This is another option. Another option is to use a thermophore. Again, make sure you have something between the patient and the heat so that they don't get burned from the heat. You make sure that you talk to them and make sure it's not too hot for them. Now I will tell you on him just a minute ago, we just wiped off the chest. At home, that's what we've been doing. We just wipe the chest off with cold water and repeat and put it back on. But it's probably better and more effective if you also wipe your back off with the cold water and dry it off. You don't need to change the heating pad on the back, just leave that one there. But you can wipe off the back with the cold water every time you do the front. All right. I guess that's all I have for you. Thank you and good day.